What's up, YouTube? My name's Christian. It's nice to be here with you today. This is the Wednesday version of the Space Yoga Online Quarantine Pandemic offering for 2020. Got a couple minutes here. I'm about to step off screen and set up the Instagram live feed. So go ahead and just get your mat ready, get yourself comfortable, turn on some music if you like. Welcome. It's good to be with you. And if you're watching this after the fact, it's still awesome to see you. Just get ready. We're going to get started here in about 5 minutes. What's up, Instagram? My name's Christian, and I'm one of the teachers at Space Yoga Studio here in Augusta. This is the Wednesday afternoon offering of online yoga. It's good to be with y'all. I'm just getting everything set up right now between Instagram and YouTube. So hey, good to see y'all. Let me just make sure everything looks good, and we're going to get started here in about 1 minute. So get your mats ready, turn on some music if you like, and we're going to get moving, all right? Let's see here. Adjust this a little bit. All right, I think that looks pretty good. What's up? Let me hit all these little waves for y'all. Okay, so before I back up on my mat, it is basically the top of the hour, so we're going to go ahead and get moving out of respect for your time and mine. Once again, so if you see me looking off screen, I have multiple electronic devices going to support the multiple platforms that we're broadcasting this out over. YouTube, meet Instagram, meet YouTube. This is the Wednesday practice. My name is Christian. I work for Space Yoga Studio as well as Project Create Space, which is the nonprofit portion of the studio. And we carry yoga into underserved populations like treatment centers, hospitals, the VA, the list goes on and on. We just make sure that people get access to this experiential offering as a means of enriching their lives wherever they are in their journey. So if you feel compelled to, after the fact, please go over to the Space Yoga website and feel free to make a donation there. Don't have to. Enjoy this practice no matter what you do. This will be a beginner-based practice, and just for expectation purposes, it'll last right around 45 minutes. So let's get going. We're going to start in the seated position. I'm going to back up here onto my mat, and we're going to get moving. Just if at any point you have any questions about the studio or the schedule or when it's opening back up or anything yoga related or otherwise, Monica Acosta usually monitors the comment section on Instagram and YouTube. She'll either respond in kind as you comment or after the fact when she watches the broadcast back again. She's very approachable and very accessible. So enjoy your practice today. It's good to be with y'all. All right, now that I have my glasses off and I can't see anything, it really makes me kind of more present. So, like I mentioned, we are going to start seated, just in a nice, easy pose. Okay. As we begin, and easy pose for those of y'all, how dare me. For anyone that might be new to yoga, trying this out for the first time, it's literally like crisscross applesauce. It's what you learned in kindergarten. But feel free, if you're a more advanced yogi, you can go fire logs here, you can go soul to soul here. It literally does not matter. I just want you to begin in the most comfortable seated position that you can achieve at this moment. And as we do so, we're just going to find our sit bones, right? So the most comfortable seated position that we can be in, just like I mentioned, sitting up nice and tall, forearms are resting on the knees, or they could be on the floor. It really doesn't matter. It's the middle of the week, and I just want you to be comfortable and begin to focus on your breath. I don't want you to intentionally change it in any way. Just notice it. You may notice, I'm closing my eyes. You're invited to close your eyes for a moment, if you will. And all I want you to do while you're noticing that breath and where it's at after this, long day of being at home with the kids, doing homeschool or working on your laptop remotely for your job. Maybe you yourself have been doing schoolwork, or maybe you've been doing nothing except sitting there and binge watching Netflix and eating snacks. There's no judgment here. All of those things provide you qualification to be with me today. So with those eyes closed, just beginning to shape, beginning to form some kind of intention. You got onto your mat with me today, and you did it for a reason, so figure out why. Is it something physical that you're trying to maintain or upkeep? Is it something emotional? Maybe you got something you need to stretch out. Maybe it's a combination of those two things. But as you begin to deepen that breath, just shape an intention around what it is that you're formulating in your mind. You can marry those two things together and just take a big breath in through the nose. Trying to fill up that whole body cavity. And then exhaling out through the mouth. Nice and vocally. So big breath in. Hold it at the top for a moment. And then letting it go. You can open up those eyes now. We're going to raise those arms up overhead as we breathe in. Sitting up nice and tall, just creating some space in those side bodies. Exhaling, floating those arms back down. One more time, big breath in, arms go up. And then exhaling those arms back down again. Last time, big breath in. Arms go up. This time, as we exhale, we are going to release those arms down, but twist to the right. Taking that right arm behind us. Bringing that left hand to that right knee. And that back arm, we're not leaning into it. Now turn for the camera for you. We're not doing one of these numbers, right? You see I'm kind of up on my fingertips. One of my favorite people on the planet refers to those as cupcake hands. You can see that, right? We're just using it as like a kickstand. Also, this left hand is not helping us crank around even further. It's just there, right? That twist is generated from the core. So breathing in, sitting up nice and tall. We're going to reach those hands back up overhead. And we're going to twist down to that opposite side. I'm going to shift around so I'm not facing away from y'all when that happens. Then you can take that gaze out over that left shoulder, right, to kind of accentuate that twist some more. Also create a little space in your neck. It's where a lot of us carry, some of our tension. Just breathing here for a moment. Untwisting, bringing those arms back up overhead for one more time. Big breath in. Hands down through heart center. All right, his legs have been crossed for a minute. So let's straighten those out to staff pose, right? So feet out in the front of us, right? Keeping those feet flexed back so those toes are facing you, right? And just hinging at the hips, right? Let me turn again. And sitting up nice and straight here, you can see that my spine is straight line. Feet flex back towards me. And then I'm just going to hinge at the hips, walk my hands down my legs, and reach for those toes. Now you can get to the toes. You can get to the blade edges of those feet. If all you can get to is the ankles, that's fine. If you can't get a hold of anything because you can't reach forward, trust me, I was there a couple of years ago when I started practicing. Just meet yourself where you're at today. We'll be here for just about another breath. And rising back up. We're going to spread those legs out wide now. Wide as they'll go, okay? Still sitting up nice and tall. And reaching or turning our chest towards this right leg. And then reaching out for that right foot. So releasing that chest down towards that right quad. For anybody that's new to yoga, this probably just looks like some simple stretching that you might do before you go running. And it is, okay? Everything we do is intentional. We're just trying to get several subsections of the body warmed up before we start doing some things that look a little bit more like you might perceive as traditional yoga, like that stuff you see on Instagram, which we're broadcasting on. Real quick when I'm talking, we're coming back up. We're going to turn our upper body cavity towards that left leg now. Reach out for those left toes, that left foot, and release that chest down towards that left quad now. Yeah, but we're just getting the musculature in different areas warmed up. So as we do some of our other sequences here in just a couple moments, we'll be more prepared for that. Rising back up, sitting up nice and tall. We're going to bring the soles of those feet together. All right, pull them up into our body. All right, so I got those butterfly knees now. And take your hands to the blade edges of your feet, just to kind of anchor yourself, right? And here is where you can really find those sit bones. You'll feel it now. But I don't want you to use your arm strength to crank yourself down. Like I mentioned, we're just grabbing our feet as an anchor point, and I just want you to release your chest down towards the archways of your feet. As far as you can go, right? Rising back up. As easily as you can now. I just want you to slide those legs around. We're going to come up into the seated kneeling position. So I am sitting back on my heels to the degree that I can, right? because I got a lot of hamstrings and a lot of quads. So here I am, still nice and tall in my spine, okay? If that is inaccessible for you like it was for me a while back, you could just be here, all right, in this tall kind of kneeling position. But we're gonna sit back for as long as we can, for those of you that can, and we're just creating some flexion on our ankle joint area, and that'll help warm those up. And in the meantime, we're gonna take our right arm straight up in front of us, palm facing the wall across from me. Left hand to those right fingers and just flexing back on them. We're warming up these muscles underneath, as well as our wrists. So we're doing our wrists and our ankles at the same time. All of these things are great multifunctional movement, especially for our people that are having to work from home now. Flip that hand over so that palm is facing you now. Gentle pressure on top of the hand, and now we're creating space up here on the top of the arm. These are simple things you can do sitting at your desk chair or at your dining room table. Switching to that other arm. So left arm, palm facing the opposite wall, right arm or right hand to the fingers. Flexing back gently. This should not hurt. And then flipping that hand over. So I know we've been sitting back on these heels for a while. If at any point you need to rise up to take some of the pressure off, you can. This is your practice. Meet yourself where you're at. And then just roll those wrists out. Clockwise at first. You can reverse, go back the other direction. Just let those hands come to rest on those thighs. And we're going to do the same for our neck really quick. So I'm going to take your right ear towards that right shoulder. And letting that head roll forward till we come chin to chest here. Rolling again, taking that left ear to that left shoulder. We're going to roll back forward again. We're not going to go back. Chin to chest again. And then right ear to right shoulder. Very good, gang. All right, so we're going to go to all fours now, meaning hands planted, knees on the ground. Hands are spread nice and wide, okay? So we have a good, solid, firm base. Hands are shoulder width apart, and the joints, so that elbow and that wrist, they're stacked below the shoulders. Hips and knees are stacked, right? Gaze is down. So we have a nice tabletop back now. So the gaze is in between the space between your hands. We're going to go through several of our cat-cows here. And so as we breathe in, we're going to dip our navel towards the mat and roll our hips, and our head will come back, opening up the throat area. So it'll look like this. This is our cow posture. And as we exhale, we're pushing up and away from our hands, pulling that navel into our spine. Chin goes to chest for our cat posture. Breathing in. And then breathing out. Just creating some space in our spine. Do a couple of those on your own. So about 1 or 2 more of each. Breathing out. One more time. Breathing in for our cow. Out for our cat posture. Coming back to that neutral tabletop spine now. We keep our head down so that our neck stays in line with our spine. I know I have to keep looking at the camera. But I'm going to start on my left side because that's the side that's facing y'all right now. You can start on whatever side you like, whatever side feels dominant for you. Just remember where you start so that you can do the opposite each time, because we'll always do both sides of everything for balance. But I'm going to step back to the toes on my left foot. So the ball of that foot is planted. And as I keep my head down, you'll notice I got a straight line from the top of my head to my heel. I'm going to lift that left leg up, trying to maintain that straight line, keeping that foot flexed so my toes are down. And then you're invited, if you're ready, reach that opposite arm, that right arm out long in front of you for our spinal balance posture. We'll hold this for about 1 more breath. Bring that hand back down first, then the toes, then the knee. And then we're going to do the opposite side. You do not have to turn around on your mat. I'm just making sure that I stay where I need to be for y'all to see me best. So we're going to go back to the toes and the ball of the foot on that right foot. Keeping that head down, remembering to breathe. Taking that right leg up high behind us, so that opposite leg you started from. Keeping those toes flexed down. And then finally reaching that opposite arm, that left arm out long and in front of us for that spinal balance. Coming back down with the hand first, then the toes, then the knee. All right, we're going to spice it up a little bit now. Everything's getting pretty warm, all right? You can see why we warmed up the wrists and ankles and all that. If you haven't, you're about to learn. Here we go. So we're going to get into bear posture. We're going to do that 3 times. And in order to do that, we're going to curl both sets of toes, okay? And as we breathe in, we're going to float the knees and the shins above the mat. So what it'll end up looking like is this. All right, so on that next big breath in, ready, 1, 2, 3. Float those knees and those shins about 6 inches. And then make sure those shoulders stay stacked over the tops of those elbows and those wrists. Engage your core. And remember to breathe. Releasing those knees down gently. That was the first of 3. We're going to be here at break for 1 breath and then back up. Breathing in. This is one of those times where you can do a quick body scan. Am I where I'm supposed to be? Are my knees where they're supposed to be? Is my head where it's supposed to be? You can see how things feel when you do that. Floating those knees back down. Body scans are important. I think they are anyway. And then back up. Big breath in. Pushing back through both sets of heels. One more breath here. And then floating those knees back down. We're going to uncurl both sets of toes. We're going to walk our hands back to meet our knees. And here we are in high kneeling again. So next, we're going to begin to create some space in our hips. I'm going to step this left foot out. All right, and you'll notice when you're looking at the screen, my knee is set back from that foot. There's just a small, it's probably like 35-degree angle. I want to be able to lunge forward, all right, till that knee is stacked over that ankle. You can go ahead and do it now with me. All right, you'll begin to feel that kind of through here. All right, so long as you're standing up nice and tall, you can bring those arms up overhead. And this is our low lunge. All right, this is still got that knee planted on the ground. It's like a low crescent lunge. Bringing those arms down. So if we want to take it up a level, right, I'm going to show you first, and you can decide if that's accessible for you today. And if it's not, just stay in the low lunge, okay? But what we're going to do now is move both sets of hands inside that lead foot. And I'll turn towards the camera so you can see what that looks like. All right, so both sets of hands, back up some, are inside that lead foot, okay? This tricep, this upper arm, is pinned up against that knee. I don't want it floating out like this here, okay? Next, in my low lunge, with my hands inside that lead foot, I'm going to curl the toes on that back leg and engage that knee up off the ground. And this is our lizard pose. Pushing back through that back heel back there, just like if I was in plank, right? That's what it feels like, pushing back. That's what I mean by pushing back through that heel. I'm going to float this knee back down gently. Uncurl those toes. Stand back up. And then slide this knee back into place. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the opposite side. So I'm going to take this opposite leg. The leg comes out in front of me. Set back at first. I'll lunge forward. Take those arms up and overhead. Put in a slight bend in my back. And opening up my hips. Big breath in here. And then exhale. And then for that secondary option, I can hinge at the hips. Bring both sets of hands inside that lead leg. Keeping that knee pinned to that arm. Curl the toes on that back foot. Engage that back knee off the ground. Now I've got a whole new world of opening going on right there through the hip area. We'll be here for one more breath. Releasing that knee down gently. Uncurling those toes. Standing back up. Sliding that knee back into space. We're going to walk those hands back out into all fours. I want you to put both sets of toes together and send your knees out wide. You can sit those hips back now and then walk your hands forward, releasing that chest towards the mat for our first child's pose in the practice. It's a good time to check back in with our breath, check back in with that intention that we set. Maybe it's time to reset that intention. Maybe it was incorrect when we did it. Can always flex anytime we need to. But we'll be in this child's pose for about one more breath. Bringing those hands back to plant so they can support our weight. Walking those knees back underneath us. We're going to curl both sets of toes again, and we're going to send our hips up towards the ceiling for our first down dog of the practice. Pushing our head through that window, so getting our ears in between our biceps. We can alternate dropping those heels towards the mat. Create some length in the backs of the legs, because we've fundamentally been on the ground most of the practice so far. And one more time on each side. And then we're going to walk those feet up to meet those hands. We'll stay here in this forward fold for just a moment. You can let your head be heavy. Just kind of ragdoll here. Keeping your hands released towards the mat. You can sway right to left. Finally bringing those hands up to those knees. We're in a nice tabletop back posture again, just as if we were down on all fours once more. Our gaze is down there in front of our feet. Our neck is still in line with our spine. Finally, we're going to breathe in and rise up, bring those arms up high overhead again. Exhaling and floating those arms down. All right. So before we get moving again, before we get into the next posture sequence, I want you to take those hands and pin them behind the back. So you're going to reach for opposite wrists or opposite forearms. You want something like this. All right. Once you're nice and comfortable back there, taking your chest and pushing it up and out and pulling your shoulders back and down. So we just want to create some separation up here. So many of us, regardless of quarantine circumstances, fall victim to sitting on our phones all the time or on our laptops. And we stay just kind of like sheltered in on ourselves. So this anchoring of the hands behind the back, pushing that chest out, the shoulders back, helps create some separation up there. You can even tilt the head back a little bit, opening up that throat some to further accentuate that. A couple of deep breaths here. And just releasing those hands. Rotate the shoulders back some. Coming back in the opposite direction. Yeah, it feels better. Okay. So here we are. Let me check the time. I don't have my watch on today. Okay, we got about 15 more minutes. We're doing great. I'm an amazing teacher. All right, so we're going to come up to the tops of our mats now. We're going to be about one pace off of the top. So about one step for you, right? We're going to go through several of our sun salutations. Tell you what, for the Instagram crowd, I'm going to come to this side of my mat. Makes a little more sense with the way the camera's set up. So feet hip distance apart. You can eyeball that, all right? Another way for you to check, right? If nobody's ever shown y'all before, if you're new to you, you can eyeball it, right? You can see your hips, you can see your feet. It's not hard. You can also take one foot and turn it in, and if that toe enters in that archway, your hip distance. You can also take your hands, make fists, and if those two fists fit inside, your hip distance apart. There you go. Focusing on that can help reduce anxiety and stress in certain situations. That's usually why I talk through it with people because it's very simple. We're all adults, right? But going through that process can help a person focus on something other than the external stimulus that might be dysregulating them. So I just like to always point it out for people. Feet are hip distance apart. Hands are at heart center. Stand up nice and tall and strong. Gaze is directly out in front of us. And as we move through our sun salutation, we're going to breathe through the entirety of it. So we'll breathe in, we'll exhale, we'll move. We'll breathe in, we'll exhale, we'll move. So I'll go through this first one. We're going to do it 3 times. I'll go through this first one and talk through it pretty intentionally, pretty measured. And then the second 2 will be a lot more fluid, just for expectation purposes. So, standing nice and tall in mountain pose here. Big breath in through the nose. Exhaling, hinging at the hips. Forward, hands on knees. We got that tabletop back again. This is halfway lift. Big breath in. Exhaling, releasing the head and the hands to forward fold. Breathing here. As we exhale, slight bend in the knees, plant those hands, step back to plank. Shoulders are stacked over those wrists again, pushing back through both sets of heels. Straight line from the crown of the head. We're going to release down slow, elbows to ribs, a negative release, uncurl the toes, and then we're going to find our back bend. So pushing up. Okay. This is a high cobra back bend. Little release in the elbows will bring us down to a low cobra. Can even come to forearms here if this is where you're at today. And just pin your hips to the floor. Okay. So when I say find your back bend, that's what I mean. Choose where you are today. Here for just a moment, releasing back down, curling both sets of toes. And this is our big push up to down dog from here. We'll be here for just one breath. Walking those feet up to meet those hands. Forward fold again. Halfway lift. Big breath in. And then rising up, hands come up overhead once more. And then back down through heart center. Very good. All right, so these next 2 will be a little bit more fluid than that. All right, so as we begin, breathing in, exhale, halfway lift. Forward fold. Planting those hands, stepping back to plank. Releasing down slow through chaturanga, elbows to ribs. Find your back bend. Pinning those hips to the ground. Releasing back down. Curling those toes once more. Big push up to down dog. Walking those hands, or feet up to meet those hands. Forward fold. Halfway lift. And then rising up, arms up overhead, big long stretch. And hands down through heart center. So for this last one, I'll do this like I would do in my classes at the studio if you ever come. Last one, I'm not going to talk at all. It'll just be a free flow moment for you. So you can go through your sun salutation on your pace, your breath, without any type of cadence or cues from me. And then we'll all just meet back in mountain pose together. How will I know you're there? Just trust me on that. All right, big breath in. Check that time once more. Oh yeah. So I've been doing this for a couple weeks now, as we've all been going through this together. And this is the first time I had this idea. I actually just had it in Backbend. So for those of y'all who are out there, if you've ever wondered, do we, come in here with a planned routine? Sometimes, not all the time. Actually, mostly no. Usually I'm just kind of meeting myself where I'm at, and I'm inviting you to come there with me. And if it gives you what you need, then we have this perfect marriage of like student teacher, right? This kind of symbiotic relationship. But I just was down in Backbend and I thought about it. I was like, all these people are probably at home. Some of them probably have kids. And if you do, I would invite you to let them participate in this part, right? So we're going to do tree, which is great in the studio, but didn't really seem to make sense to me for an online offering, because it's kind of this thing that makes more sense when everybody's together. But if you have kids nearby, bring them. We're going to turn into trees for a minute. It's going to be awesome. Okay? And it's a great way for you to really strengthen your ability to balance. If that's something that's one of your goals for, improving your perception of how your yoga practice is. Tree is usually one of those Instagrammable type things, but fantastic for balance practice. It also will help with anxiety and stress reduction because it gives you something to focus on once again, other than what's happening around you. So if you had kids and you're bringing them around, I hope they're there. What's up, gang? Nice to meet you. My name's Christian. I'm totally awesome. I'm going to begin by taking my balance into my left side. You can choose whichever side you want. You have agency. But I'm going to take the intention of balance over there. So I'm going to ask my body to do something for me before I actually force it to do it, if that makes sense. So a couple of helpful hints. Find a spot across the room that you can lock your gaze onto like a bullseye and keep it there. You can also, if you have your hands at heart center, like I'm representing now, really pushing into the palms of your hands, right, will help with balance also. Kind of like if you were on a tight wire and you had a rod or a staff. So I'm going to begin to just shift my weight over into this left side. And as I do, and I begin to balance all of my weight into that left leg and left foot, this right foot is now just weightless. And I can park that heel next to that ankle, like a kickstand again. And when you're ready, you can take that arch of that right foot and just marry it to that calf muscle where it fits perfectly, opening up this right hip. I know it's hard to see. Right knee extended out in this direction. Your next move needs to go above the knee, not into the knee, right? So into that thigh. Ooh, almost lost my balance there. Or you can cross it out in front as if you were sitting in a chair. This is what I invite most of my beginner classes to do. Focusing on your spot across the room, pressing into those palms. You can feel your leg and your feet making all those little adjustments. When you're ready, you can grow your tree. Big breath in here. Releasing back down. Just walking that out for a minute. All right, we got time to do this opposite side. So come with me. I've taught my body what I meant by please balance me on one side or the other now. So this right side, you'll probably find is a lot easier, or whichever side is opposite from the one you just began on. Big breath in here, mountain. Start to shift that weight into that opposite side. Left leg becomes weightless. Heel moves to the ankle to start the movements up into the calf. Finally, above that knee into the thigh, or out in front across. When you're ready, growing those arms up, and you're a tree. Bringing those hands back down to heart center. Releasing that foot down. If you brought your kids, good job, gang. As easily as you can from the standing position, please meet me back in that kneeling posture that we were in earlier. Because we are now at the end of our practice. The Instagram feed will cut off here shortly. And I want to make sure that before it does, I get to tell you how much I value that you took the time out of your day to come and practice with me. I'll invite you ever so quickly to close your eyes. Bring your hands to heart center, chin to chest. Thank you for trusting me to lead you today. Thank you for being such an amazing community. Thank you for choosing yourself, even if just for this short amount of time. You are worthy, you are deserving, you are enough. And the light within me sees, honors, and respects the light within each of you. Namaste. That's it, gang. So if this is your first time, we do this every day at 5 p.m. Not all of the teachers are as good looking or as fantastic at yoga as me. They're all so much better than me. Not as good looking though. Every day at 5 p.m. though, Please go follow and subscribe to Space Yoga Studio on Instagram and YouTube. Make sure as soon as the stories are posted or the videos are posted to the Instagram story and are live on the subscription feed for YouTube, share them with your friends. This is a hard time for everybody. We're all going through this together. We're experiencing it individually though. And yoga is an amazing practice that will help reduce some of the stress and anxiety that is associated with an event like this. So thank you for being here. Enjoy the rest of your evening and see you next week.